Welcome back, listeners. I'm Robin Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. Today we have a special guest with us, Miss Riana Malia. We're gonna be speaking today a little bit about why women who have built impressive careers and families still struggle to experience the love and deep connection that they crave. Riana, how are you?
Thank you so much. I'm great. I'm excited to be here with you.
I am very excited to kind of dive right into this because this kind of speaks to me and it resonates with me in my situation. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am a wife and a mama, first and foremost. My journey here to this work has been a long one. It's such an honor to get to do this work. And I created this work first for me, quite frankly. So I went through a very tumultuous divorce, and which was kind of actually shocking because it had been a lonely marriage. We got married way too young. Don't do that. 10 out of 10 don't recommend get married at 23. But I was certain that no one was going to love me and I was going to be this old cat lady, right? So Midwest made sense. Mm-hmm. We had our miracle baby, Maddie, but we divorced about when she was 6. And again, it was not a surprise, but then it turned crazy, which I think sometimes happens. And that was really difficult and really challenging to work through that. So I did all the things we're told to do. I talked about it in therapy. I talked about it with my girlfriends. I read all the books. I did the Brene Brown things. I did all the journaling. And all of that is beneficial to an extent. But what happens is, and this is what I call the therapeutic loop, when you keep talking about it and you keep going back into the story, it's a guarantee that you're never actually going to move forward and get what you want because you're so focused on all the things you don't want. And it keeps you in that place of being stuck. So fast forward about 3 years after that happened, and a little bit of context. I grew up in Minnesota with my mom, single mom, and my beloved grandparents, who I called Grammy and Bumpy, and they were kind of my rock and my anchor. My father lived in California. He had another family and really wasn't around much. A lot of broken promises, a lot of those feelings of like growing up as a little girl, wishing I had the relationship with him and having that sense of like, why don't I matter? Like, why am I not important to you? So some of those childhood things. So when I was going off to college, he said, hey, you know what? I'm going to pay for your room and board. It's freshman year. And I was like, okay, that's amazing. A couple months in, they called and said the bill wasn't paid and I was maxed on loans. So I had to move out of the dorm and rent a 5-bedroom house and get 3 jobs and fill the other bedrooms. And again, it was just that reinforcement. So about 3 years after I got divorced, he had been, popping in and out of our life a bit more. And he came to Minnesota and he said, listen, I think this is the time you guys should move to California. Now, let me just say, I am an island girl. I was born in Maui. I am a beach baby. Those 40-degree below zero winters are not for this girl. So, And also I was tired, right? So I had my coaching practice, but I also did practice development for a large oncology group in the Midwest. And I was raising Maddie, and we had the horses and the chickens in this little farmhouse. It was kind of magical. But I was also like, oh, that sounds really nice to breathe. And have this ideal like fantasy of like, oh, wow, I could have my dad. But I said to him, I'm like, look, my mom, and they'd been divorced since I was 2, had a surgery and they nicked a nerve. They were fixing something in her neck and they nicked a nerve and she couldn't use her arm. And she'd been in nails. She'd done nails her whole life. So she couldn't lift her arm. That was an issue. So I'm like, look, I can't leave my mom here and I'm not leaving my horses. And, and he's like, great, bring your mom. Bring the cats, bring the horses. I'll build a barn. It's going to be amazing. Come take over this family business. So everything inside of me said no. And it wasn't even like a little bit of like red flags. It was like the billboard in Times Square screaming at me. Yeah. And my 2 best girlfriends were like, who are my chosen sisters. They were like, this is no, like you can't trust him. Like, this is crazy. But I wanted that. I wanted to breathe. I wanted that just change. And so I said to Maddie, I'm like, listen, I'm only going to disrupt your little sweet life once because I moved around a lot as a child and it was difficult. So she was 9. And so I took my mom, my baby, 3 cats and 2 horses, and we drove across country and moved to California. I didn't know a single soul here outside of my father. When I got here, there was definitely that pit in your stomach, like something was off, didn't know what it was. 6 months in, I was in the back of the studio and then heard noises and found myself with guns drawn, surrounded by federal agents, put in handcuffs, and in the middle of a DEA investigation.
What?
So that pit in my stomach, should listen to those, by the way.
Right.
So, we don't have time to go into all the crazy details, but let's just say now I'm in California and now I have no business. So I have no income. This dream of having a relationship with my father, clearly out the door. And this devastating fear of what the hell am I going to do now? Yeah. Such a betrayal. Who does that? Not only to me, but to put my daughter and my mom in danger. And just that whole sense of like, we moved their whole life here. And it just was mind-boggling. So went back to therapy, was, processing, grieving. But I found myself either being super ragefully angry or so incredibly sad. Mm-hmm. And I was writing letters to him and I didn't send them because he's a classic narcissist. And so you've got no communication, right?
Yeah.
In the process of that, what I noticed was every single time I would talk about it and I would go back into the story, like it would just reactivate everything. And it was like it would consume all of my emotions in my body and I just didn't feel good. And I really couldn't be present to joy or excitement and all the things for Maddie. And Maddie didn't know any of this happened. In fact, she didn't know any of this happened until she was going off to college. So yeah, kept all of that from her because it's not hers to carry. But in the midst of this therapeutic session or cycle, I got introduced to something from somebody. I couldn't even tell you who it was at this point, but it was kind of the basis of then what became my life's work and my IP and my frameworks and my methodology, because in a matter of weeks, there was parts of me that I didn't recognize in all the best way. Mm-hmm. And I was able to let go of those feelings. And I fully forgave my father. He doesn't get a seat at the table, right? I haven't spoken to him in years. He doesn't get access to me, but I'm not carrying around all of that, right? It's that old thing. I'm going to drink the poison and I hope you die, right? Mm-hmm. That's what happens when we don't forgive, because it's not about them. It's not letting anyone off the hook. It's not justifying what they did. Again, he doesn't get access in any way, but that no longer controls my thoughts, my feelings, my behaviors, my perceptions of the world. So I went on a journey, and I had, again, always been in the personal development coaching space, but I went deep into this work. And from that came my methodology, which is the Clear to Create method. And then inside of that is like the how, which is the quantum pattern protocol, which is a 3-phase process that I use, where we clear, we create, and then we claim. And so that's my journey into what brings us here today.
I like that. So as far as I understand that everything that you went through, but would you say that because of what you've gone through as a child and not forgiving your father was one of the reasons why you feel that it was hard for you to find your person?
I think the story, so much of who we are is anchored in between the ages of 0 and 7. And we make decisions and we make, and the scary part about that is that that's kind of running the show in the unconscious mind standpoint. So, we wouldn't let 5-year-olds make decisions for us now, but what we don't realize is a lot of that's happened. I think that there was a combination of a lot of things that had me choose my first husband, because I had that sense of like, I'm not valuable enough. I'm not lovable. There's something wrong with me. And also, just being really young and not having that anchor of any modeling of what that looked like. And then, going through everything that I did go through and getting really clear about who I am and who I'm not, and being able to get rid of all that stuff, all the old story and the trauma and the neurology and the strategy and the behavior of believing that I'm not enough and too much at all at the same time. Yeah. That gave me the clarity to get crystal clear on who my person was. And, I married him 2 years ago. So we've been together 6 years, married for almost 2. And I can't tell you, Robin, I couldn't have handpicked a more perfect person for me. So we have a lot of similarities and we have a lot of differences. After I moved to California, I did have a relationship, again, chosen out of that same fear of that 23-year-old girl who got married of, I went on a date. I hadn't been on the dating apps. I was just focused on raising my baby, but it'd been like 3 years that we've been here. So I went on a date, and then I was just like, I let him just be like, okay, we're in a relationship. And it was so not the right relationship for me, but I couldn't get out of it. And again, I still had those stories about myself that maybe I'm just being too picky. Maybe maybe. But because I didn't know deeply around like my values elicitation and my non-negotiables and my desires, because I didn't have that confidence that first, I didn't have the clarity. Second of all, I didn't have the confidence that, there wasn't something inherently broken. After I finally got out of that situation, I sat down and I made a list, about the big things. He's got to be a dad because he has to know what it's like to love a child, because Maddie's my world. But his kids can't be younger than Maddie, because that's when it's empty nest time. And geography and, just how he is in the world. And then like, how tall is he? What kind of hair color is he? All the things. So there's like 40 things on that list. I threw it in a drawer, didn't even know where it was. And then met Pete. We dated, we got engaged. And about 6 months after we got engaged, which was the 3-year anniversary of our first date, I found that list. And of the 40 things on that list, he's 37 of them to a T. And it's, it's a testament to like getting clear, but then getting rid of the attachment of the how and the when, right? Right. It's like going to a restaurant and we're going to order, and we're not going to go back into the kitchen every 15 minutes and see if they're cooking our, filet at the right temperature, or if they triple washed the romaine for our salad. And no, we're going to sit and enjoy and know that when it's ready, they'll bring it out to us, right? It's kind of that same thing, the universe. But in that same vein, what I find with most of my clients who are successful, ambitious, high-achieving, heart-led women who almost get what they want, they never quite do. And the reason is the clarity piece, right? So again, back to our restaurant metaphor, it's like going to a restaurant and saying, hey, I would like a beverage, a protein, a side, and a salad. Great. They bring us an iced tea, a pork chop, some roasted potatoes, and a Caesar salad. We got exactly what we asked for, exactly what we ordered. But what we wanted was a nice glass of Pinot and a ribeye and some roasted asparagus and an arugula salad with beets and goat cheese and fresh figs. So the difference is we got exactly what we ordered, not what we wanted. So really understanding and getting that level of clarity changes the game.
But I feel like, so a lot of all of us women, we, like you said earlier, something's wrong with me. And when we feel that way, sometimes I feel that us as women, we tend to identify with that problematic area. So what would you suggest, or what would you say to your clients, how to kind of get rid of that mindset?
Yeah, so there's a few things. First of all, if we look at the methodology, right? So my tagline in my whole life, since as long as I can remember, has always been your very best life. So whether we've been besties for 25 years or we met in the Starbucks line, my wish for you is that you live your version of your very best life, right? And it's different for every single one of us. But the truth is, you cannot go from being stuck by past pain and old stories and old narratives and betrayal and loss and trauma and all the things to just living your very best life. It doesn't work that way. You have to clear first. So we have to clear the story to create the life, right? How many times I hear, I want a different story. I keep ending up in the same situation. If you want a different story, you have to stop telling the old one, first of all. Yeah. We have to clear the cycles to create that confidence, right? So again, just my experience, many of my clients will say to me, I don't know. I thought I knew, and look how that turned out, right? I thought that was my person. I thought that was my whatever the situation. And all those cycles and patterns that keep showing up kill that confidence. So we have to clear those cycles so that you can actually then like really anchor in and trust yourself again. Fall in love with yourself and hold boundaries and communicate your needs and all of those things. And we have to clear the patterns to create the partnerships. We want aligned, genuine, amazing partnerships, personally and professionally, right? But if we don't clear the patterns, which is the unconscious stuff that's running the show, we don't get those partnerships. We just get more of the same. It's why people say, well, I keep marrying the same man over and over again, in a different body, or I keep dating the same person over and over again. And we have to clear the resentment to create the results. Again, high achieving women who have ambitious goals, and we're doing all the things and work businesses and podcasts and raising families. And there's some resentment that's underneath there at an unconscious level that keeps you from actually getting the results that you want. And we have to clear the blocks to create the love. So having said all of that, to answer your question, so that's like, great, Riana, that's really great philosophy, but what can we actually do? So here's an interesting fact. Number one, if you think about your body, everything from the neck up is our conscious mind, right? It is our faculties. It's everything we know. It's our goal setter. We use it all day long. It's 10%, which means everything else from the neck down, the other 90% is our unconscious mind, which if the conscious is our goal setter, the unconscious is our goal getter. It's the operating system. And it's the literal library of everything we've ever experienced in this lifetime. And it's all stored at a cellular level in the body. So we think of memory being in the brain, and of course it lives in the circuitry, but we know science has proven that memory is cellular. And when it's not released properly, all of that negative weight of anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, all the limiting beliefs and limiting decisions, we see things manifest in the body like anxiety, depression, overwhelm, autoimmune illness, injury, disease, right? And the thing about that is every single day, we think between 65,000 and 85,000 thoughts. 90% of those thoughts are recycled. So they're the same thoughts we thought yesterday and the day before and the week before and in the middle of the night when it's 3:33 and we're running through all the what ifs. But the problem with that, Robin, is 75% of those recycled thoughts are negative. And I get a lot of pushback on that because my clients are self-aware. They're like, nope, I'm good on mindset. Like, I am clear. I will never allow that again. I don't ever want this anymore. And I am never doing this. And the thing is the unconscious mind and the universe, it doesn't hear the clarifying don't. All it hears is what you're focused on. And that's why people keep getting the same thing over and over again. So there's a process that I lead my clients through, and it lines up with the values of who I am as a person and for my business. And my core values are love, generosity, impact, belief in what's possible, and being a magnet for miracles. And that is one of my favorite things to teach. So becoming a magnet for miracles, I use one of my frameworks, which is called the fear to focus flip. And in 72 hours, we can actually rewire your thought process to flip the thinking from all of those things we don't want, which we call your away wall, to replacing that to all the things that we do want, which is your toward wall, using, a various certain things that we're going to do over those 3 days. But it's incredible. And it's been proven, right? Neuroscience shows us that in 72 hours, we can literally do that. Because in 17 seconds, holding a thought with emotion starts to reinforce or create a new neural pathway. So inside of 72 hours, we actually get to rewire the brain so that, and we're human. It's not like we're not going to have those thoughts. But the point for most of us, we don't even notice, we don't even recognize that we're thinking those things. So we just have that anxiety and that low vibe feeling, and that we feel the tightness in our chest, and days can go by. So what this does is we take it from days to hours, hours to minutes, minutes to seconds. It's not about toxic positivity and not having those emotions. It's about how quickly can you pull yourself out of it so that you're not giving your brain and your mind more GPS instructions to take you back to the place you don't want to be.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But I guess as far like my main question would be, when you're, speaking to your clients, how do they not get caught in the technique? Right. Because I know it's like we can tell, we can walk people through things and how to do things. But I think it's more so about them learning to do it themselves without getting caught in the technique. So when you, when you tell them how to do something or the best way to do something and find that clarity, how do they not, focus on how you were able to gain that result without them feeling that the same thing is going to happen to them? From when I speak to my clients, I feel that that's where they're getting caught, is in that technique. And I kind of myself want to know is how to get them away from that.
So just so I'm clear, when you're saying the technique, so for instance, that's one thing that we do at the very beginning because everything starts there. So are you saying that they get caught up in that they have to do the technique to move forward? I'm not really understanding the question.
It's depending on what that technique is, whatever it is that you're teaching your clients, or if some of the clients that go to YouTube or they go to Instagram and then they find all these different ways that other people are doing things. If they do a manifestation and they write things down 200 times, or if they do whatever it is that the technique that someone else is teaching them or guiding them, they get caught in that instead of making
okay, got it. Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We can vision board, affirmation, manifest all we want, but if all the stuff is still there in the unconscious mind, it doesn't matter. You have to clear the programming. We have to rewire the subconscious patterns and recode the nervous system, because all the techniques in the world, it doesn't matter. If all the old stuff is running the show, it's never going to change anything, right? That's why people come to me and they say, I've been in therapy for years. I have done the work. I've made so much progress, but then, man, life happens, because it always does. And I'm right back to where I started. Well, that's because you didn't replace the old neurology with new. So much of this work in the world focuses on clarity and awareness. Great. You have aha. Now you know it. What the hell do I do with it? They don't give you the skills to go with the knowledge. They don't replace the neurology and the strategy and the behavior. So again, like if we talk about the process, right, we get that clarity. So we clear, and then we do a dysfunction detox where we actually get rid of all of that stuff, but we do it in such a way using methodology that I use called quantum time release, which is a multidimensional technique that's been used for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And it's where we actually get to go in. And if you think about all those negative emotions we spoke about, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, if you think about each one of those having its own ribbon, and every time in life that we have a significant emotional experience with one of those emotions, a marble goes on that ribbon, right? Anger marbles, sad, fear, shame, whatever. So today, if something happens, right, you get triggered or something happens and something comes up and you're spinning out, it's not about the today thing that made you angry. It's about the 30, 40, 50, 60 years of marbles behind it. That's the weight. That's all that energetics that's stored here that keeps coding and giving direction of how to behave and where to go and where we should be focused. So we clear that in a painless, peaceful way without going back into any conscious memory of anything that happened. So we're not going to look for something that happened when you were 5, that you decided that you had to be quiet to be loved, or the thing that happened on the playground when you were 7, and then, you decided you had to be this way to be liked. Like, we're not going back into any conscious memory of everything. We get to clear at an unconscious level and release all of that. Right. So future pacing, in between each one, we look at if it had happened in the past and that would have been a problem. What do we do instead? So we start creating new neurology around how we interact with those emotions. And again, you're still going to have anger, sadness, fear, guilt, and shame, but the charge is gone. So we test that in between each release. And I'll say, okay, now I actually want you to go back to an event in the past, a very specific event where that emotion was a problem. And I want you to tell me if it still has a charge, though you may realize it does not. And that's where this if you would have asked me about that 3 hours ago, I would have been crying, or I would have I would have gotten clammy and I would be so angry, and the charge is gone. So when we release all of that actual negative energetic weight, now we have room to call in and create what's meant for us, right? So it's like a few weeks ago, I cleaned out my pantry, and as a perimenopausal ADD woman, I love order and structure and organization and lists, but also things can just pile up around me, right? It's like, depends on the day. So I hadn't cleaned the pantry out in quite some time, and I took everything out, and I was like giddy. It took me 4 hours. I took everything out and I put it all in the kitchen, and I cleaned all the pantry, and then I threw away all the expired stuff and the half open boxes of orzo and just junk, right? And then I put it all back, and it was like there was all this space and everything had a home, and it felt like Christmas to me.
Yeah.
It's the same in our mind and in our wiring. All the old expired thoughts about ourselves and stories and conditioning and societal stuff and experiences and behavior and trauma and disappointment, you got to get rid of it so that there's space. It's like our closet. When it's full of all those old clothes that we never wear and we think we're going to wear again someday, there's no room for some cute new shoes, right? We got to get rid of all that crap so there's room to call in, which is the life and the love that between now and dead that you want for yourself, instead of just attracting more of the same.
So there's a lot of things that we have to do in our household, because it's like our house represents our bodies, right? Or our body, mind. and we have to kind of declutter. We have to go through declutter physically and also internally. And that's kind of where I think a lot of us are probably going to struggle a bit because of our schedules. So what do you tell your clients how to, properly prepare for time management so that they can do those things?
So here's the thing that's so great about this work, right? It's fast. And this is not something we're not going to sit and talk about things. I mean, this is not months and years. This is weeks. So the protocol, the intensive is literally 8 weeks from start to finish. And it doesn't require time other than, our time together and a few things that you're going to do in between. But there's no journaling. There's no busy work. There's no writing letters, none of that. This is a very intentional mix of neuroscience, coaching, experience, and the modalities that actually get this done once and for all. And so there's no stress about how am I going to make the time for this? It's, if you have an hour a week to spend with me, like we're good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and then when your clients rebuttal, what do you tell them?
Give me an example.
When they say, I don't have an hour a week to do this because I'm a CEO of a company and I have this work, I'm a single mom, I have this that I do. What can I do? Because I know I need this help.
Right. So here's what it kind of comes down to, and just being really clear. It's kind of like, do you really want to do the work? It's like when you go to the dentist and then you have the horrible toothache and it's like an abscess and they're like, look, I can take care of it now, or we can, put this off until you've got some time in like 6 months. Well, no, we want to get out of pain. So the women that I work with, they're not the women that are like in the beginning of the work. They're not like in that crisis, never done any therapy. Like women, I'm the woman that women come to after they've done all the other stuff and they're resourced and they're ready to be done with it. So if they're really ready and this is their line in the sand and this is what they say they want, like anything else, you're going to find $10,000. If somebody says, I'm going to give you a $100,000 car for $10,000, you damn right you're going to find the $10,000. If I say to you, I'm going to give you the transformation that you've been trying to get your whole life in 8 weeks, instead of 8 years, you're going to find 8 hours of time. It really comes down to, because the truth is a lot of people say they want this, but there's so much secondary gain, which is an unconscious process, but there's payoffs to staying where they are. They get attention. They get to be the victim. They get to be the martyr. And most of the time that is nothing they're even aware of. But it's like, well, when does the cost of being in pain outweigh the gain of being in pain? And, it's a real life conversation, but this work is not group coaching. This is not some module, right? This is you and me co-creating your life together. So if you're at that level of ready to have the life and the love that is meant for you, because there's more meant for you in your life, it's a no-brainer, right? It's like, it's almost like saying, okay, well, you're dying and I can heal you in an hour a week. You're going to find the hour.
Yeah.
So the time piece is never an issue. That's not ever an objection that I get, only from people that have done all the courses and all the programs and all the things where they have to journal and do all this stuff. And like, who has time for that? And that's not what this is. Because they have so much trauma around. I've told my story so many times. I don't want to do this again. I'm so sick of my story. And every time I go with a new therapist or a new coach or a new course or a new program, I have to tell the story and I have to do all this stuff. It's like, I'm over it. Right. And this is for the woman that's over it and, ready to do this level of work that is actually going to have lasting change instead of just yet another thing that gives this temporary relief.
I like that. I like that a lot. So how have you been just living your life and just absolutely loving it ever since you went through the healing process and your journey and finding your loved one?
Yeah. So it just changed everything in the sense that it was always felt like a struggle. I always felt like I couldn't ever quite get there. And I'd pretty much given up on the fact that I was ever going to find my person, because I was like, it's just not going to happen for me. It's too late.
Mm-hmm.
It made me sad, but also I was just like, I wasn't willing to put myself in another relationship where I wasn't valued and adored and, held in with such love and respect that I didn't feel afraid or not safe, or I couldn't trust them, like all that old stuff. But once I did this work and I got rid of all of that, there was space for Pete to show up, right? There was, and for me to receive him and to even notice him, because when you're focused on all the old stuff, you keep saying to the universe, I'm never going to find my person. I'm too late. I'm too broken, whatever. Back to the same old thing. Okay, great. Well, then we'll give you that. But when you're focused on the other parts, people actually get to show up. It's kind of like when we, inside of here, once we get you clear, we clear out all the yucky stuff and we figure out what it is that you want. We do a process where I reverse engineer your goals with you. And we go all the way back, starting at the end, when the moment of achievement, all the way back till today, and we micro step backwards. But then we install that on your future timeline so that your brain gets to experience it as though it happened, because the brain doesn't know the difference between something that's actually happened and something that you actually can visualize with emotion. So you see what you see, you hear what you hear, you feel what you feel. And what that does is it ignites the reticular activating system in your brain, which then becomes laser focused for looking for the people and the experiences and the opportunities and the resources that you want in your life instead of what you don't want. But had I not done this work and cleared out all of that old wiring, I would have never seen Pete, because I was so focused on all of the things I didn't want again. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so getting to have this beautiful life, and I have my Maddie, he has 3. So, we have 4 semi-adult children. Our Maddie and Pete's youngest, Luke, are both seniors in college this year. And then the other 2 girls are off living their life post-college and happy in their careers, one in Chicago, one in Nashville. But I don't wake up in the morning with dread. So when I was in my corporate job here in California, I hated it.
Yeah.
And I'd wake up every morning and I would go to the office. And even though I had freedom, because I was coaching realtors on how to build their business, so I didn't have to sit in an office all day, but still it just sucked the soul out of me. So I don't wake up with that anymore. And I don't wake up feeling like, oh my God, I can't wait till Friday. And oh my God, I need a vacation. I don't need a vacation from my life.
Yeah.
And the impact for me, it's so incredibly rewarding, because it doesn't just change the lives of the women that I work with. It changes the lives of their children, their future grandchildren, the people in their circle, their friends. It deepens their relationships with every single person in their life. And you kind of have this new master level of a different way of communicating. It just changes everything. And so to see the impact and the ripple is such a joy.
I can only imagine. So that is very exciting. And about how long have you been having clients yourself?
Yes. So in this particular work with my IP and frameworks, it's been about 4 or 5 years now. It took me a long time to actually go through it all and get all the knowledge. And then there was a period of time where I was figuring out, okay, well, what are my methods? So this is not like I'm a Tony Robbins coach or a Jay Shetty coach and I take this is all mine, because it comes from lived experience. And then so I created this work for me first. And now hundreds and hundreds of women have been able to be impacted by it. And I hear some of the same things over and over again. Like, I wish I would have met you 15 years ago, because it would have saved me so much time and desperation and money and therapy. And I'm like, yeah, but you had to do some of that work to get you here anyway. None of it's wasted, right? And even the hard stuff, the stuff that you think, oh my God, I wish I didn't go through that. Had I not come to California and had that horrific experience, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm called to do. So when we talk about being grateful and being in gratitude, we have to be grateful for it all, not just the good stuff.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And Riana, as far as getting rid of the attachment of the how and when, what would you suggest is the best advice for women to do that?
So, part of it just comes down to understanding that concept of it's again, back to the restaurant, right? You're not going to go to the restaurant and order a meal and then keep going back in the kitchen to see how it's being done and questioning every 10 minutes when it's going to arrive. You trust that you placed an order. You trust that the chef is making it, and you trust that the server is going to bring it out when it's ready. It is hard, especially for those of us that are like type A and we like to know and we like to plan, because that is me. But it's like because we only have finite possibility in our brain. We allow the universe with infinite possibilities to deliver the how and the when in ways in which are far better than we could have ever imagined. Life gets easy. But we like to hang on to our, I want to know, and I want this tomorrow, or I want to know that it's going to happen in 14 days and 3 hours and 6 minutes because I need to plan my life. Then we start pushing it away more and more and more. And, so, and then the other piece of it is, again, like understanding and then making a decision to like really make that part of your plan, right? In the sense of, and again, rubber bands come into a lot of play in my work, but when you have those thoughts that are anxious about when or how, and you get a pattern interrupt in the brain and you replace that with a better feeling thought or something on your toward wall list, it actually changes the trajectory of your entire life. Yeah. And so is it as easy as like doing it once and you'll be perfect? No. Transformation, actual lasting transformation requires three things, right? Number one, you have to clean up the past. And we do that in quantum time release in a way that's, not going back and reinstalling the traumatic neurology. You have to get crystal clear on what you want. So we do that in the clarity piece. And then you have to take inspired action that's actually aligned with what you say you want for yourself in your life. So this is not a, make a vision board and then everything's perfect. This is like great work, but again, not leaving you in that maddening place of having the knowledge, but then I don't know what to do, right? So we're going to give you the skills and exactly what to do, but it's up to you to go like put it out in the world and do it, right? Because we're big girls. Yeah. But it's as simple and as complex as that. I had a client the other day. So I do an event here in the Bay Area called the Brilliance Brunch. And I do it like every 6 or 7 weeks. And it's really for Bay Area professional women who want to come together and have transformative conversations with other professional, high-achieving women, but beyond just the professional you, right? So it's a space where we can talk about all these things, but also like it gets vulnerable. And this woman, she's in her 50s, and she came to my brunch, the September 6th one, and she's in a big transition. She'd gone through a divorce a few years ago. She has this sense that she'll never find her person. She's struggling in pivoting career at mid 50s. And, she was like, I don't know. I'm so stuck. I don't really know what to do. So we did her first session and it ended in a mix of tears and laughter, because her story, her whole life has been, in order for it to be valuable, it has to be perfect. And in order for it to be perfect, it has to be hard. And that means I need to be really hard on myself and beat myself up for every single thing because it wasn't perfect. So she's had this heavy for 55 years. Yeah. And at the end of this hour together, she had tears and she was laughing and she's like, is it really that simple? Like I can let go of this fucking thing that I have to be so hard on myself in order to make it. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh my God, I feel so much lighter. And again, you don't stop there, right? There's more work to do, but it's like if things shift that change the rest of your life, right? We're not talking about months of talking and years down the road that you're going to be this person. Like we create shifts that happen now. So it's exciting because it's different. It's not the same old. And the results, I've never had so people will say, well, what if it doesn't work for me? Like the only way it doesn't work for you is if you literally just don't ever show up.
Right.
Because you're not left to your own devices. You're not left to start something and then have the same self-fulfilling prophecy of, well, whatever. See, I never finished anything I start anyway. So what's the point? Or I start to exercise and then I don't. I start a course and I don't finish it. I start a book and I'm going to journal every day and I do it for a week and then I don't do it. And then it's like, yep, great, good. Every time you judge and blame yourself, you're taking yourself out of that place of power and into that place of victim. So the only way it doesn't work is if you literally never show up for our time together. Mm-hmm. And I've never had a single person do this work with me and say, it was okay. I mean, because the work is about every area of life. So whether you're coming to me because you want to know what's standing between you and extraordinary love, or you're coming to me because you're in this transition in this time of life, and maybe it's a divorce, or maybe it's a empty nesting and a career change, and you're like, I don't know what to do next. Yeah. The work handles all of it, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I love your energy. I love how you're glowing, and I love how happy you are, because it's very inviting and I could just feel it. So I do love where you are right now.
Something I'd like to share with your audience as a gift is that I spent the last year working with an incredible team creating a diagnostic called the ELLI, which stands for the Extraordinary Love Index. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it looks at 9 key areas, which kind of line up with the areas inside of my framework. So we look at impact and trauma and communication and belief and all these different things. So it's 40 questions. So it is not the what kind of Disney princess are you 5-second question thing, right? This is an actual diagnostic. But so I always tell people, like, give yourself a good 10-15 minutes to actually take it, where you can be thoughtful. But then I send you a 28-page personalized report looking at all of those areas based on your answers and your scores. And it shows you, given this information, you might be feeling this way or experiencing this. Here's the cost of staying there. And here's some things you can do right now to help move you out of that. Mm-hmm. And I believe with the bottom of my heart, every human in the planet should take this assessment, because it gives you so much insight, not just about extraordinary love externally, but starting here, right? That love of yourself. So where do you start? You start with the ELLI, because wherever you are in whatever stage of life, single, divorced, wanting to be divorced, wanting to have a partner, it doesn't matter. It's going to give you this incredible insight to how you're wired and where some of those things are that maybe you've never been able to actually put your finger on, that are keeping you getting what it is that you want.
And what was that ELLI test? How can you spell that again?
Yeah, so it's the ELLI. It's called the Extraordinary Love Index. You can go to my website, which is simply rianamalia.com. I'll give you a direct link to the ELLI as well, and you can pop that in the show notes. And of course, on all the socials at Riana Malia. So you can find the ELLI everywhere. So go take it. And I can't wait to hear. And also, just so you know, like, I get a copy of the results, every single person that takes the ELLI, and I review them. And, it hasn't been in the world very long. So there's been a couple thousand people that have taken it in these last 3 or 4 months. But seeing that information is so incredibly insightful. So the other thing that I hear a lot in, like, my Brilliance Brunch community is people feel like they're the only ones. Why I don't have it together. Everybody else around me has this perfect Instagram life, or, I'm this executive woman, but all the people around me, they have it all together. We all have these things that on the outside, you can go to a networking event and give your business card and tell your title, like, who cares? You can come into a space where you leave feeling genuinely connected to other people. You feel seen and heard, and you go, oh my God, it's not just me. I'm not actually alone in my shame or my fear or my attachment to where I thought I'd be at this stage of life. So it's just really freeing, and being in community and in conversation at that level is game changing for every woman.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your insight, Ms. Riana. So again, what is your website for all of the listeners? And I will be putting in the show notes as well, but if you can, just go ahead and say that again.
Perfect. It is rianamalia.com, which is RianaMalia.com. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, all the same, Riana Malia.
All right. Well, thank you again so much. Again, I'm Robin Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. Everyone, stay blessed. Okay. Again, I'm your host, Robin Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. If you're navigating grief, toxic relationships, trauma, financial pressure, or the slow work of rebuilding after setback piled upon setback, this channel is for you. Our community now spans 118 countries, proof that real stories travel and that healing accelerates when we carry one another. Share your story, lend your voice, and let grace turn pain into purpose. Book your podcast in the link below and share your story. Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Wherever you are in the world, good morning, good evening, and good night. Stay blessed.